Hey! I'm getting 4 quarts of water, which is volume, to put in our pan, since we're going to be boiling pasta.
And that pot would be matter because it's taking up space.
Yes.
On the counter.
Matter.
And it's also solid.
Yes. And see? Solid. Okay. And it takes up mass. Oh.
There's liquid. It's water.
Water. Yeah.
The volume of this water will soon be 4 quarts.
Actually, it's going to be 8 quarts.
Yes, 8 quarts.
Okay, as you can kind of see, that is fire, which shows plasma, and it shows a chemical property.
Because it is flammable.
Yes, the plasma, which means particles are being ionized, and yes.
Yes.
So now,
And the air around it is a gas.
yes, the air that I can feel is a gas. So now I will put this pot of water on it, and when we come back, you'll see the
Boiling water.
boiling.
This is butter. The butter is slowly melting now because the fire is transferring heat through the pot, which is a thermal conductor.
Yes.
And now the butter is melting, as you can see.
Because it was room temperature hard square, and now, as you can see, it is melting quite quickly, actually. And as you see with Allese's spoon, now it's becoming softer, so if she pushes down on it, it'll start to, yeah, be meltier and softer. And yeah. Okay.
This jar is filled with water.
Just regular water. When I put the cap on, put it in my freezer.
And in a few minutes, it will be ice.
Yes.
And that would show freezing.
Yes. We'll come back to that. It has frozen.
This is a hard noodle. And now, it's 2 different noodles.
But it's still a noodle. It's still pasta, even though it's now broken.
Yes. Which, this is a physical property of this noodle. Yeah.
And it shows a physical change.
Which would be from being a whole to a half.
And still being the same object.
Exactly.
Okay. So as you can see here with our boiling water, we have some condensation, which are water droplets because of the heat of the water coming up and these water droplets appearing. This is called condensation. As you can okay, so as you can see, well, you can't really see it, but
yeah,
there's steam here from the water heat,
from the fire going.
And so that is evaporation, and it's also a gas, example of a gas, because you can't see it. And yes, as you can see in our water, it's almost starting to boil because of this intense heat.
The heat from the fire.
Make the water roll and boil.
In the freezer, everything is frozen because of freezing, because of the coldness.
And the thermal energy and the temperature are low.
And the temperature makes everything colder. So it can take something from a liquid
to a solid.
Like ice in here.
This Kool-Aid, right now, it's little bits. And I'm going to go over here and add some water to it. And
Allie!
over here and add some water to it. And when we stir it, it's going to magically dissolve because of solubility. Which is when things can dissolve in water and
which
act
is
like they're
the
not there.
ability of one substance to dissolve because of liquid, which is going to happen with this Kool-Aid.
Okay. Now we're going to get a spoon. Okay, and you can't really see it that well, but it dissolved. Okay, as you can see here, we have a ball of Play-Doh on our Lightning McQueen table.
Oh yes.
And we're going to show you that it's malleable because you can press it down. Jaden, can you press it down? We're using Allese's little brother. Hi. Okay, so he pressed it down and see, now it's flat, but it's a different shape, but it didn't break, so that means it's malleable.
And it also can be rolled into a different shape by doing this. And so now it looks like a burrito.
Yes. Right. Say bye.
Okay, as you can see here, we have two different types of wire. This is a silver wire, and this is a copper wire. They are made into wire from this thing called ductility. Ductility is the ability for things to be stretched and made into wire, just like these two. They come in longer pieces, but
we just have short pieces.
yeah, we just have short pieces right now, so yeah. And this is our example of ductility.
Okay, so now we are talking about sublimation. And sublimation is the process in which a solid changes directly into a gas. And an example of sublimation would be like if you got dry ice and it turned into fog. But we don't currently have dry ice, so we're explaining it to you. And then like an antonym would be like fruit juice turning into a popsicle, because that's more breezy from a liquid to a solid.
Now we're doing reactivity, and reactivity is the ability of a substance to change into one or more substances. That would be like, let's say, aluminum, because it can be changed into, like, it could be folded in all kinds of different shapes, but it's still aluminum. It could hold stuff, and it could not hold stuff, and yeah, that's
okay. So chemical change is a change that occurs when one or more substances change into entirely new substances with different properties. And like an example of this would be like mixing two different chemicals together, because that's two different substances coming together. And an antonym for this would be a chemical with the same two properties, because that's not mixing anything because they're the same. So yeah, that's okay. Now we're talking about density, and density is the ratio of the mass of the substance to the volume of the substance. And synonyms for this would be like thickness or compact, like if you have like a ball that's like with a lot of matter inside it. And then antonyms would be like openness and like thinness, and yeah.
so it's like the lab we did yesterday.
Yeah, it's like the lab we did on Wednesday or Thursday, and where
you would do things and you would divide.
Like you would divide density. The equation is you divide mass and volume, and that gives you.
So thermal energy is what we're going to be talking about next, which is which is the same as like describing how temperature changes, which is kind of like the amount of heat being transferred from one object to another. Like when we did that lab where you would put the rubbing alcohol on the Q-tip and put it on your hand, and then it would be cold because the heat from your hand would be transferring to the rubbing alcohol, making
the thermal energy go down, which is just like the temperature going down. If the temperature goes down, the thermal energy does.
Alright, and that's the end of our video.